talking about this amazing kitchen that we designed. I'm going to be discussing about what material that we use, what is the reason of choosing that material, what are the heights that you should do all of these designs, especially understanding how the external and internal planning is done well of the kitchen, ensuring that the kitchen looks beautiful and at the same time it's going to be something that you do not have to touch or have any maintenance to do for at least 10 to 15 years. Yes, this is actually possible if you plan your kitchen well, considering that you're smart about the color choices that you make and smart about the material choices that you make. So if you want to find out about how you design this kitchen and how you can actually use these advices to design your kitchen, then stay tuned till the end of the video because we have so many things to share with you. Hi guys, I'm Tami Sixeria, the founder and CEO of Littlemsdesigner Designer. If you're here to find out about the tips, tricks and hacks and anything to do with interior design, then you're at the right place. So in this video, we're going to be covering several factors about this kitchen. We're going to be talking about the color combination, the materials used, the space planning and the zoning of the kitchen. Along with that, I'm also going to be telling you a little bit about the lighting and the false ceiling design and also some of the quirks that we had to do to actually make this design come alive. And besides for this, I'm also going to be sharing some of the hardware internals and how we've decided to go about the color combination is the first thing that I'm going to be talking about. Let's jump right into the topic. The color combination of this kitchen is absolutely very neutral yet very stunning. Of course, if you want to, you can definitely add some color into the kitchen, but I don't advise that because after let's say a couple of months or a year, you might get really bored of it and it might start hurting your eyes. So having a more of a neutral color shade throughout the kitchen is something that I always recommend and advise. But just in case if you're a fan of color, you can add very small hints of that color. Now for the color combination, even though we've used a lot of neutral colors, we still didn't want to be very boring. So if you see, we've played with a couple of shades. What we've done is we've gone for a very nice brown, rich, chocolate-ish color going all across the counter and the backsplash. The backsplash is basically the space between the counter and the overhead storage. So usually when you're dividing the storage, you have the under counter storage which is going under the platform and you have the overhead storage which is going above the counter. Now for the underhead counters, what we've done is we've purely used shutters and drawers. And on that we put this beautiful laminate color of a grey. And this same grey we've continued in the overhead. The overhead we have divided into two parts. The middle overhead and the extremely top overhead. The middle overhead is the same laminate that we've used on the under counter storage shutters. So there is some uniformity going across the kitchen. And on the extreme top of the overhead, we've gone for a slightly greyish color to add a little greyish brownish touch to it so that it complements the entire brown grey look. Yes, there is a little break in that. Now that you've got a better understanding of the colors we've used, let me brief you about the materials we've used for these colors. So if you see on the shutters, which is below the counter and above the counter, we have used these scratch-proof yet very easily maintainable laminates. These laminates are from Green Lamb Royal Touch Company and they're very good, especially for the kitchens. Of course, you can use other materials, but this is something that I highly recommend because they really are easy to clean, easy to maintain and look fabulous. So definitely try this out. They come in various colors and patterns. I normally go for solids because I feel that looks classy, but in case you're into patterns and different textures, you can definitely try out their options for that as well. Now understanding that has been used on the shutters, on the countertop, if you see, I have used this beautiful brown quartz. Quartz is a beautiful material to use. Back in few years before, people used to use a lot of granite. That is a term that you must be very familiar with. Granite comes in a couple of colors too, like blacks, etc. But I feel quartz really outdoes the granite. Of course, it's slightly more expensive, but I feel that doing up a kitchen is something that you're going to do once in a few years. So it's worth spending that amount to do up the kitchen top really well because that's the place you're going to use maximum in the kitchen. Using quartz is brilliant because it comes in large sizes. They come in a size of 10 feet by 5.5 feet in width. So what happens with that is that the length being really long, you have lesser joints on the countertop. So let's say if you have a countertop of let's say 9 feet or 10 feet, you have an entire slab going all across instead of having different joints inside it. So this is one of the beauties about quartz. And besides for that, quartz is really good in even stain removing. So let's say if you're cooking something and some stain has come onto it, because of this material being so well protected with the film coating on it, it really helps to clean that stain off. So you can't even see the stain on the countertop and it's really easy to clean. These quart materials come in various colors. They literally go from browns to whites to blacks to like so many shades, grays. There are tons of options. You should definitely check these out in the market. And if you don't believe me, just try it once, and once you've used these quartz, I'm sure you won't go back to your granite. But just in case you are really not having the budget, then the next alternative is to use granite. So a unique thing about the materials that we've used for the backsplash and the counter, it is that we've used the same quartz. Now usually what people do is they either put this different material on the countertop and certain different tiles on the backsplash. But what we've done is we've actually used the same quartz on the countertop as well as the backsplash. So this looks really unique because this is not very like something that you see on a daily kitchen combination, but it really stands out because there's like a little C kind of a design that we've put in this design. And another thing that we've done in this is, if you see, the ceiling is completely off-white and the flooring is a marble. The marble that we've used is a very cream color. Now what happens with the cream color, the reason we didn't go for a white in the flooring and we chose cream is because, let's say when you have a lot of things falling onto your kitchen floor, it becomes very visible because on white it looks stunning but it's very difficult to maintain. I always say go for either a cream or a little darker shade than a cream for the flooring, because it's something that you don't want to be cleaning every 2 hours. You're probably going to clean your kitchen maybe once a day or twice a day. So being smart about the color that you choose for the flooring is very important. Go for a cream or maybe 1 or 2 shades darker than a cream. That is the most advisable material to use for your kitchen flooring. Now for the kitchen flooring, you can either use a marble, or if you don't have the budget, you can also use tiles. But when you're selecting tiles, ensure there is a full body vitrified tile. Now what I mean by full body vitrified tile is, let's say water goes inside or like a lot of water is lying around, it doesn't soak inside the tile. So it really resists the water from going in and causing any issues of leakages from the kitchen. Now as for the ceiling, we've used aluminium frame, GI frames going all across the ceiling and bounded it with a gypsum sheet. With the gypsum sheet, we've painted a nice coat of Asian paints. The color code which we've used is Morning Glory, which is definitely one of my favorites. I've used it the most. So this entire color combination with the right set of materials, there is something that really makes this kitchen stand out. So concluding, we're going to be having laminates for the shutters and the storage units. We've got quartz on the counter and on the backsplash, and we've got some gypsum sheets on the false ceiling with Asian Paints color paints, and we've also got a nice beautiful marble on the flooring. So these are some materials that you should definitely consider when you're designing your kitchen, and let me know which one you finally choose because I'm excited to know about it. Now let's understand the space planning and the zoning of the kitchen. Now what happens is, I'm sure if you've heard of the concept known as the working triangle. The working triangle of a kitchen is basically the easiest flow between your sink, your gas and your fridge. Because having a good flow between all of these 3 items makes your cooking really easy. Ensuring that you have a clear path to reach all of these 3 items very easily is very important in a kitchen. So let's understand how we've designed this kitchen. Right when you enter from the door, on the left, we've given you a sink. Another reason for giving the sink in this particular area, because there was a bathroom behind on the other side of the wall. So this really helped with the plumbing, because in case there's any leakage or any issue, it really helps the plumber to maintain it in the next following year. There won't be any leakage, but just in case there is any change or anything that you need to rectify, this is a great way to ensure that your wall is also the wall which is matching your duct wall, which is where all your water pipes are going, or let's say another bathroom and any other platform like that. Now moving ahead, if you see there is a nice big window. We would have loved to have the kitchen gas over there, but we couldn't do that because there would be too much air coming in and going, and it would be very difficult to always have the window shut. So we kept the gas a little on the right of the window so that there is no direct air coming in and out. And above the gas, we've given you a nice chimney to let out all of that steam that comes inside the kitchen. On the right of that, we've kept an empty platform, because let's say when you're cooking, you're going to need some preparation counter, right? So it's very easy to put stuff on the countertop while you're cooking. So this is really helpful. And further on, if you go on the right, there is another full equipment unit that we've created. This equipment unit has all of your equipments like your microwaves, your ovens, or anything that you require. We've also created some cool wicker baskets to store all your onions and potatoes. Now having them all stacked up one above the other becomes really easy to actually use it. And on the left of that, if you see, there is a nice counter empty space, so that again, if you remove something out of the oven or something out of the microwave, you have space to put it somewhere. Right on the right of these equipment units, we've kept a nice big fridge. Now this becomes really easy because if you're looking at standing in the center of the kitchen, on the right you have your equipments and your fridge. On the slightly left you have your gas, and behind you is the sink. So this is the perfect way that you can arrange a nice kitchen working triangle. So try this for your place because it's going to be something that's really going to be helpful to you. So concluding, your working kitchen zone is very important. It should be divided into consumables, non-consumables, cleaning, cooking, and of course preparation. And this is something that I'm going to be talking about in the next video coming up really soon. I'll leave the link below later so you can have a look at that. But this is really going to help you understand how to actually divide your kitchen in the right way so that it's maximum to use and you're not going to waste any space. So moving ahead, let's understand the lighting and the electricals of this kitchen. So in this kitchen, as you see, if you look up into the false ceiling, there is a nice beautiful square rectangular shape of the false ceiling, right? Which I mentioned is using a gypsum sheet. Now what happened is, usually I always tell you that let's go for round lights if you see in most of my videos. Now we definitely tried to do that. We tried to give a lot of round lights, like round panel lights for the task lighting. But what happened was that this false ceiling was not matching the shutter lines of the kitchen. And this is a problem that a lot of people have. So if you're trying to match the shutter lines of your overhead shutters and the false ceiling on the lights which you put inside it, it becomes quite a nuisance. So as a hack, what we did is, instead of using the regular silly round panel lights, we decided to go with the linear profile lights. Now what happens when we did this, we tried to create a beautiful rectangle going along with the false ceiling. So this turned out to be a unique design where originally this was actually a problem that we tried to solve. So actually designing is that creativity that really helps to solve problems. Yes, look, aesthetically very pleasing. So this was a nice LED linear profile light which comes in a length of at least up to 10 feet. Now what happens in this is, this goes concealed into your false ceiling. So it literally acts like a regular tube light, but it also looks great. So you're getting the functionality of a tube light and the aesthetic sense of a beautiful light. So this is something that is perfect for a kitchen. If you have the budget, because this is slightly expensive, it goes up to at least 5,000 rupees etc. for one single light, but it's something that's really recommended because it throws a lot of light into your kitchen, making your light and your kitchen looking very nice and bright. Now moving ahead, this was the task lighting that we've done. Coming to the ambience lighting, we've done a little different thing. What we've done is, if you can see under the overhead counter, the last middle one, we've created a nice ambient LED strip going across. Now usually I would say that you should go with the white LED strip because it actually helps you to understand the right colors when you're cooking. However, this particular client that we designed for really wanted some ambience touch to it, so they wanted us to add a bit of yellow into it. So we've given a 3K, which is known as a warm white color, under the counter. But usually I would recommend to go for a white light even for that, because when you're preparing, colors and all change when you're preparing, let's say, any food. Let's say if you're making any masalas, and a mirchi which is red is now going to probably look a little more orange with the yellow light. So keeping that in mind, it's completely up to you if you want to go for a yellow ambient light or a white light, but I recommend that you should have white lighting going all across the kitchen. Now besides for the lighting, a very important factor are the switchboards, which no one talks about. Now what we've done for the switchboards, if you see, we've divided it really smartly. We've given a lot of plug points in areas which are going to be using, which are completely empty counters, because let's say if you want to add a toaster or you want to add any equipment, you have that counter space for that. We've also given a couple of plug points where the equipments are. Remember we told you we designed a unit where you have your microwave, ovens, etc. So behind each of them we've given you the plug points. Now a small tip about this is that instead of having the switches right next to the plug point, you should have the plug point behind the equipment, because that's something you're never going to have to access. Because let's say the plug of the microwave or the oven is always going to be attached. The only thing that you have to access is the switch to put it on and off, right? So So a good hack to this is to actually have the switch on the counter, which is easily accessible, and have the plug point behind the equipment. So this is a really important hack that you should consider when you're designing your kitchen. Because what happens is a lot of people put the switch and the plug point behind the equipment, and then it becomes really difficult to access. And one more very important thing is that when you're choosing the plug points for these switch boards, make sure that the plug point and the switch match well together, ensuring that you have 5 amperes as well as 15 amperes. Because the heavy loading machines such as your fridge etc. will not work on a 5 ampere. There's going to be an explosion and you're going to be in trouble because you might even have a short circuit. So ensure that you're going to have a mix of the 5 ampere as well as the 15 ampere for the loads to be taken care of when you're using your equipment. And if you want to know about a small hack about the gas piping and how you should install it for the gas correctly, then stay tuned till the end of the video because that's a small secret hack that I'm going to share right at the end. So let's conclude what we've learned so far before I get into the internals of the kitchen. So what we've understood is to use right color combinations, more of neutral shades is very important for kitchens. And if you really want to use a pop of color, then use very little bit of it. Making sure to use the right materials such as quartz and laminates for your kitchen is also very important. And the lighting should be something that's divided between your task lighting and ambient lighting, ensuring that you use a lot of white lights for your kitchen to ensure that you can actually see the right color of your food. And of course, the plug points and the switchboards should be well planned so that you don't fall short of it in your kitchen. Now that you've understood all of this, let's dive right into the topic of how you should decide your storage for the kitchen and how we've done it for this particular kitchen. So if you can see in this kitchen, we've given you a division of drawers and shutters in the under counter part of the storage. Now how this helps is when you're going to be having smaller cutlery items etc., it can become quite a mess to have cabinets going. So I always recommend to have drawers with internals inside it. Now the second thing to do is, let's say under the gas that corner space always goes waste, right? So you can either use that to use and put in your gas cylinder, or let's say if you don't have a gas cylinder, then you can even use one of these magic corners that really help to save that space. You can check out this video, which I'm also going to be leaving the link in the description below to check any of those options that you want to see. But so these are some really interesting hacks to really save space. Now besides for that, it's important to have a mixture of drawers and shutters. Shutters should be used for things that are slightly larger in height and size, and you can have internal shelves to divide it. So let's say if the counter height is at least 33 inches of your kitchen countertop. So under that, you're going to be having also a beautiful skirting. If you see that we've used a nice skirting in this, so that what happens with this skirting is, let's say if you have any jhadu to be done, which is basically brooming and cleaning of your kitchen, it really helps because nothing gets spoiled and nothing goes inside the shutter, and at the same time it becomes very easy to clean. It protects your counter and it protects your floor, and it becomes much easier to clean. So to have a 3-inch skirting going all across your kitchen is something that is very highly recommended. Now another thing about this is if you see on the handles, right? So usually what happens is for the handles, people usually put knobs or something that is jutting out. I always feel this really comes in the way when you're moving on from platform 1 to platform B. So instead of that, you should have concealed profile lights like the one which I've used in this kitchen cabinets. So what happens is that it's going inside the kitchen. So let's say if you're moving around from platform 1 or 2, you're not going to get hurt and it's not going to come in your way. These profile handles come in a variety of types and colors. There's a J profile, a U profile and various of them. And even colors, there is black, rose gold, white, there are tons of them. So use the one that really works with your color combination. The one we've used here is a simple matte finished chrome color profile light which went very well with the grey and the beige combination and the brown combination for the entire kitchen. So coming to the internals, what we've done is under the gas we've given a drawer for all the cutlery. Below that we've given a drawer for all the smaller glasses and spoons and other things that did not fit in this cutlery unit. Then on the side of that we've given a pull-out storage where you can actually put all of your masala drawers. And under the sink we've given you a cabinet with an attached dustbin so so that every time you're done with doing or cleaning anything, you can just trash it very easily. And these dustbins can be easily removable because they're very light. But let's say if you have a lot of consuming items on a daily basis, then I don't recommend these small dustbins. You should go for those big dustbins which you can actually remove out, trash it, and then put it back under the sink. Now another equipment, or rather you could say another feature that we've used for the kitchen, are the wicker baskets. Now wicker baskets is something that really looks nice because they come in a couple of colors with your cane finishes. And what happens in this is that this really helps to store items like your tomato, onions, which are really smelly and can rot when it's completely shut. So this really helps because there is always some air passing in and out, and at the same time it's also going to look nice. It's not going to look like random cupboards with holes going all across it, which look really tacky, at least according to me. So I hope you've understood about how we've designed this kitchen. Now let me tell you about the tip that I was mentioning before. When you're putting up the gas on the countertop, the gas pipeline is very important to be done beforehand, because after the marble or the tile is put on the wall, it is impossible to do it. So it's important to do this in two ways. You can either do it coming from the wall, or you can either do it coming from the countertop. Now if you're doing it from the countertop is the one which we have done. Now this is an option if you have a lot of counter depth space. So your normally counter depth space is at least minimum 2 feet. So in this case we have gone for a 26 inch instead of a 24 inch. So because we had that additional 2 inches, we've done it from the counter. But let's say you do not have that much space, then I recommend that you can actually just do it coming from the wall rather than from the counter, because it doesn't eat up your counter space. So this is a hack that you should really consider based on the depth of your counter. Well, I hope you loved taking a tour of this kitchen. Let me know which part you liked the most. Was it the color combination, or was it the hardware that we use, or the lighting, the hack that I told you about? Let me know what you loved most. And if you want to hear about similar videos and about similar tours which we've done like this, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and of course hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching this video.